Welcome to Midnight Clues.
With Clara Monroe and Elias Gray.
What if I told you about a crime so twisted, the cover-up was actually more shocking than the murder itself? We're talking about a story where greed and, well, sheer boredom led to a plot that put an entire city on edge.
I mean, just think about that for a second. It really gets to the core of this whole thing, doesn't it? What kind of logic leads you to think, you know what, the best way to hide this one murder is to commit more? So let's set the scene. This whole thing kicks off not with police tape and sirens, but with something far more terrifying. A completely baffling medical emergency happening inside a totally normal suburban home. And it happened so fast. It's truly terrifying. A 40-year-old woman, totally healthy, just getting ready for work. And then a few hours later, she's gone. Her morning started just like yours or mine, but it ended in a way nobody could have ever seen coming.
At first, everyone thought the answer was obvious, right? She must have slipped, hit her head, but when the autopsy came back, nope, the story completely changed. There wasn't any head wound bad enough to explain it. The chilling reality was she was already dying before she ever hit the floor. So the real question became, why?
And this is where the case takes a wild turn, thanks to a bit of luck and, believe it or not, genetics. One of the assistant pathologists notices something, a faint smell that the lead doctor couldn't even detect. And just like that, this baffling medical mystery became a full-blown murder investigation.
The tox report comes back and it confirms the absolute worst. Susan Snow was poisoned with cyanide, and that's why she was found gasping for breath. See, cyanide does this horrible thing where it stops your body's cells from using oxygen. So even though she was breathing, she was basically suffocating from the inside out. Now, the moment they heard cyanide, alarm bells went off everywhere. For law enforcement, this was a terrifying echo of a national nightmare. You might remember it, the Tylenol murders in Chicago just a few years earlier. An unsolved case that absolutely terrified the nation and literally changed how we all buy over-the-counter medicine.
So all of a sudden, this isn't just about finding one killer for one victim. This is a massive public health crisis. The authorities had to work under the worst possible assumption that a random killer was out there poisoning products right on the store shelves. It became a frantic race against the clock to find them before more people died.
Naturally, the investigators started looking close to home, at Susan's husband. It's standard procedure. But just as they were digging in, a phone call comes into the station. A really bizarre call that it defied all logic. And it was about to turn this whole investigation on its head.
The woman on the line introduces herself as Stella Nickell. She says she's watching the news coverage about the poisoned Excedrin. And it clicked. Something terrifying clicked. Her own husband, Bruce, had just died, only days before. And the circumstances were, well, mysterious.
So they pull a blood sample they had from her husband's autopsy. And what do you know? She was right. Bruce Nickell's death, it wasn't from emphysema like they first thought. It was cyanide. He was victim number one. The FBI now had 2 poisonings on their hand.
Okay, so now the investigation is in overdrive, and the clue that's about to blow this whole case wide open is tiny, almost microscopic. Back in the lab, while they're looking at the cyanide itself, they find something mixed in, something that has no business being there. Little green crystals.
And this is just brilliant detective work. They analyze those little green things and find out they're from a specific kind of algicide, for fish tanks. So the FBI starts going to local pet and aquarium stores, showing Stella's picture, and bingo, a store owner recognizes her right away. He says, yeah, I know her. She's the only one who buys that brand. I basically carry it just for her. Unbelievable. Her fish tank was about to be her undoing.
So everything is pointing straight at Stella Nickell. But you have to ask, why? Why go through all this, kill your husband, and then go to the extreme of poisoning a total stranger to cover your tracks? Well, investigators found 2 motives, and they are as dark and simple as they come. Money and boredom.
Let's talk about the money first, because it was audacious. Stella had taken out a bunch of life insurance policies on Bruce. Now here's the kicker. If he died of natural causes from his emphysema, she'd get next to nothing, maybe $5,000. But if his death was ruled an accident, say a poisoning,
The payout jumped to a whopping $175,000. Oh, and the cherry on top? They found out she'd forged his signature on those policies. But it wasn't just about the cash. There was something else, something personal. People close to them said that Bruce had recently quit drinking, and you'd think that'd be a good thing, right? Not for Stella. She actually started to resent him for it, complaining to anyone who would listen that he was just, well, boring now that he was sober.
So the police have a strong case, but it's all circumstantial, you know? The algicide, the insurance, it looks bad, but they need something solid. And that final, nail-in-the-coffin piece of evidence was about to come from the last person on Earth Stella would ever have expected.
The maker of Excedrin put up a huge reward, $250,000, for any information leading to an arrest. And that's all it took. The phone rang, and on the other end was Stella's own daughter, Cindy.
And what Cindy told them was just devastating. She laid it all out, how her mom was always talking about getting rid of Bruce, how she'd gone to the library to research poisons, how she was obsessed with the Tylenol case, seeing it as a kind of instruction manual. Cindy even revealed that her mom had already tried to poison him once before with a toxic plant. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was cold, it was methodical, it was planned.
So you've got the physical evidence, the algicide from the fish tank, and now you have this absolutely damning testimony from her own child. The game was up. The net had finally and firmly closed around Stella Nickell.
And here's a bit of cosmic irony for you. Her crime was so public, so brazen, that it led to a landmark legal case. Remember how she was inspired by the Tylenol murders? Well, because she tampered with products on a store shelf, she became the very first person convicted under the new federal product tampering laws, the same laws that were created because of the Tylenol murders. She was literally caught by the law her own inspiration created. The judge threw the book at her. She was sentenced to 2 90-year terms, to be served consecutively, one for the murder of her husband Bruce and one for the murder of Susan Snow. It was a sentence meant to do one thing: make sure she never walked free again. For decades, more than 30 years, Stella insisted she was innocent, maintained it to everyone. But then, in 2022, something changed. She wrote a letter to the court. She was asking to be released because of her bad health, and in that letter, for the very first time, she admitted it. She confessed to everything. But that's where we're left, with this final, chilling question. Was that admission made only when she wanted something, her freedom, a sign of actual remorse? Or was it just one last calculated move? One final attempt to manipulate the system from a woman who murdered her husband for cash and an innocent stranger to cover her tracks, all because she was bored.